Did everyone hear my message about restarting Zoom? Okay, hopefully the attendees did as well. I've got Nathan, Jim, Ron, Penny, Mike, Bowden, and Andrea, and yourself, of course. I don't see Carol yet. There she is. Seem to have lost one of the people that was in line for it to be an attendee. Oh, might be in now. Did you guys hear none of that? I was muted.
Not a thing.
I thought you were talking to someone else.
Okay, let me start that over again then. Just give me 2 seconds. I've got a script. I did not realize I was muted at the time. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the September 8th, Tuesday, the September 8th Committee of the Adjustment, Arliss Township Electronic Committee of Adjustment meeting using the Zoom platform. Please be advised that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Applicants and members of the public wanting to participate in the meeting will have joined as attendees. The committee will deal with the agenda items in the order in which they appear on the agenda. The public meeting portion will follow the following outline. Township staff will present an overview of each planning report. The applicant will be given the opportunity to speak to the application and make a presentation to the committee. The panel or committee members can ask questions at that time. As chair, I will then open the floor to hear any comments from the public, and the microphones will be unmuted. For each speaker, please state your name and address for the record. If more than one person is wanting to speak to an issue, the meeting moderator, our clerk, Debbie Chapman, will determine the speaking order. Please address your comments to me as the chair. Following the public comment portion, the attendees' microphones will be muted, and I will ask the planning staff to respond to any public comments or ask the applicant for clarification, at which time the committee will deal with the considerations before us. With that, I will come back to my Zoom meeting. Being a pain. Sorry, my technology is not working the way it should. My Zoom is not opening. Hang on. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. With that, the meeting is called to order. First thing on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda itself. Are there any known edits or omissions from the agenda that we need to address at this time? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? And from Ms. Porter, seconded by Mr. Townend. Right. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none. Right. Move to item 4.1, the approval of the Committee of Adjustment minutes from August the 4th, 2020. We have the minutes before us. Are there any noted errors or omissions? None. Can I get a motion to approve that, please? Ms. Parks, seconded by Mr. Hagedorn. Right. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. So now we move to the public meetings. The first on the agenda, item 5.1, is for 5100 Front Road, a minor variance request. We have a report, and I'm not sure which staff member will be addressing this. Ms. Furness? Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this first application is a minor variance application for property located at 5100 Front Road in the hamlet of Stella on Amherst Island. So there's currently an existing dwelling on the property, which is a legal non-complying dwelling, and currently doesn't comply with the front yard setback, center line setback, and the floodplain setback in the zoning bylaw. The applicant is looking to demolish the existing vestibule that's located at the front of the house and replace it with a new veranda on an expanded footprint. And they're also looking to do a dormer addition on the second story of the existing dwelling as well. As a result of this, relief is needed to accommodate the new veranda by reducing the front yard setback from 7.5 meters to 3.5 meters, reducing the center line setback from 17.5 meters to 10 meters, and to reduce the floodplain setback from 15 meters to 12 meters. And in addition, variances are also to accommodate the dormer addition by also reducing the front yard setback to 4.5 meters, reduce the center line setback to 11 meters, and to allow the dormer addition on the existing building within the floodplain setback as well. The property is designated hamlet in the official plan and is zoned hamlet residential in the zoning bylaw. I should note that planning staff has received 2 pieces of correspondence from 2 neighboring property owners that both wanted to voice their support for the application and the project. Under the Planning Act, there are 4 tests to comply with for a minor variance application. The first being whether the request meets the general intent and purpose of the official plan. The hamlet designation does permit low density residential land uses. So we're of the opinion that the veranda and the dormer addition are appropriate residential uses on the land. The official plan also permits construction in the floodplain and erosion prone areas where the township and the Conservation Authority are satisfied. We do have supportive comments from the Cataraqui Region Conservation Authority the construction is considerably higher than the floodplain elevation. It's outside the erosion hazard limit, so we're of the opinion that it does comply with the official plan. The second test is whether it meets the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Should note the existing vestibule is currently contains a 3.5 meter setback, and while the new veranda is being on an expanded footprint, it's still maintaining that 3.5 meter setback. And the dormer addition is on the existing dwelling, which is a non-complying dwelling. We also have no concerns expressed from Public Works in regards to the road or the Conservation Authority. So we are of the opinion that it does comply with the intent of the zoning bylaw. The third test is whether the variance is desirable for the appropriate use of the land. We don't feel that the variance will impact the use of the property for residential uses or have any impact on surrounding properties. So we do feel that it meets it is desirable and appropriate for the property. And the last test is whether the variance is minor in nature. We don't anticipate any adverse impacts, and it is compatible with the surrounding area. And for that, we feel the minor variance is minor in nature, and we're recommending approval of the application subject to two conditions. The first one being that the variances only apply to the location of the proposed porch or veranda and the dormer additions as identified in the drawings that were submitted with the application. An engineering division has requested a condition that the existing lot grading be maintained on the property. And it's to be a minimum of 2% away from any new structures and not have any impact on any neighboring property owners in regards to drainage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Committee, do you have any questions with regard to this report? Councilor Porter, Ms. Porter?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Andrea Furness. So if I understand this right, the zoning now becomes for this property, it's going to have two different front yard setbacks listed in the zoning for the property. Isn't that unusual?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, to Councilor Porter. No, what it is that we're not actually changing the zoning on the property. We're just granting them relief for the two front yards that they don't comply with. So the dormers where they're located on the dwelling is a further setback from the front yard. So we're recognizing the location that they'd like to put them, which is 4.5 meters to the front yard, whereas the expanded porch is to be located 3.5 meters. So we're allowing them to do both and recognizing the two separate variances that are required that way. So the zoning bylaw itself, the zone is not actually changing.
Okay, and this is just technical question, just for information, I guess, to understand it. So when you give relief on zoning, a new zone is not assigned to the property, then it's just shown where. Like if this house were to be sold, how does new property owners know that there has been relief on the zoning? Is it indicated somewhere? Like usually setbacks are indicated in the zoning provision.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, that's a good question. It's not reflected in the zoning, so the zoning doesn't actually change because the reason we don't change the zoning is because we don't want it to apply to the entire property. So if the entire property was granted a 3.5 meter front yard setback as of right, then essentially anything could be built along that to be 3.5 meters. The reason we keep our own records in the office in regards to where and have records of all previous minor variances. So it's quite common that we're even looking at old records from 30 years ago on variances on properties when we get requests from lawyers. So that's just it's the record keeping that we have on that. The notice of decisions are kept as records, and we have provided them in the past to purchasers and so on to show them.
Okay, Councilor Porter. Anyone else have questions with regards to this application? Mr. Townend.
I actually just have a point of order, Your Worship. I apologize to colleagues for being asleep at the wheel this evening, but I had actually meant to declare a pecuniary interest on this particular item, as I am one of the adjacent landowners making comment. So in the interest of avoiding any perception of leveraging my position, I'll step away from voting on the recommendation.
Thank you for that declaration, and you'll fill out the appropriate paperwork with the clerk with regard to that. Thank you, and the clerk will then mute you as well. Okay, I accept the point of order. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we will move to the applicant, if the applicant is available and wishes to speak to the committee at this time. Cusick. And doesn't appear that the applicant is in the audience today to speak to this. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak to this application? I would ask that you use the tools to put your hand up. Oh, we have a chat. Okay. No one? And we're seeing no one wanting to speak to this application. With that, I will come back to the committee. Okay. Are there any further questions from the committee on this? Then I'll look for a motion. I'll go to Mr. Hagedorn.
Move to receive and adopt the recommendation.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Buderick. And Mr. Hagedorn, do you have any comment?
No, not this time.
Mr. Buderick. Anyone else? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. We move on to item 5.2, 4480 Bath Road. We have a report. And Ms. Furness, will you be speaking to this one as well? I'll ask Ms. Furness to present this application.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. This application is for a minor variance for property located at 4480 Bath Road in Amherstview. The property is designated low density residential in the township's official plan and is zoned residential type 1 zone in the township zoning bylaw. The application is to request relief from the zoning bylaw in order to accommodate the rebuilding and adding new retaining walls around a proposed garage that the applicant had previously received a minor variance for the garage placement last year. Also for retaining walls along the eastern property line and around the house. The zoning bylaw requires a 15-meter floodplain setbacks for all structures. So relief is needed from this provision as well as to the interior side yard setback on the eastern property boundary. Reduction from the floodplain is also required for concrete steps and stair landings, as well as for a proposed deck at the rear of the house. An increase in accessory structure lot coverage from 10% to 14% is also being sought. As part of the application, a slope stability study was requested by the Conservation Authority in order for them to support the placement of the deck. And so that study was completed and was submitted as part of the application as well. Staff have received 2 letters of correspondence from neighboring property owners. The first one being related to erosion concerns, which was included in the agenda package tonight. And the second letter was recently received and just confirmed that they want it to be part of the public record. And it speaks to concerns regarding entrances on the property. The second letter will be included and commented on in a follow-up report once staff has a chance to review it and properly address the comments. Staff are recommending deferral of this application in order to obtain formal comments from the Ministry of Transportation, as they're the road approval authority along Bath Road, as well as to allow staff to review and address the public concerns that have been raised. In addition, Cataraqui Region Conservation Authority comments were not received at the time of writing the report. And so therefore we weren't able to speak to them in the analysis section in regards to the natural hazards that we need to in regards to complying with the 4 tests of the minor variance. I should note that we did receive Cataraqui Region Conservation Authority comments Friday afternoon, and they have indicated support for the proposal and the slope stability study. But again, we're not able to be incorporated into the analysis of the report in time of agenda publishing. Staff are confident that a recommendation report can be brought forward to the October 5th Committee of Adjustment meeting, but are therefore recommending that a decision be deferred on this file this evening so that we can address the pieces that I had just mentioned. And we are recommending the public meeting portion proceed so that we can hear from the public on any potential concerns or just general comments that someone may have on the application. So we can also take those into account and be able to speak and address them in a subsequent report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Furness. Before I go to the applicant, does any member of the committee have a question with regard to this? Ms. Porter.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Furness. These applications that come in, is there deadlines put on these commenting agencies? Like, I'm wondering, you know, the report is coming before the committee tonight, yet more time is needed for MTO and CRCA, obviously. And I'm just wondering, when our township puts a request out for comments or circulates applications, are time limits put on of how long these other organizations have to comment and bring back their comments to our planning department?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we do put commenting deadlines on that. Granted, we try to speak verbally as well with our fellow agencies as well to understand if there's any issues. So we were the CRCA was working hard to get us comments on Friday in hopes that they would have made the agenda. I know in that case. Previous application, we did have the comments a couple weeks in advance. In regards to the Ministry of Transportation, alluded to in the report that they weren't initially circulated on the initial application during that timeline. And so when that was realized, they were reached out and provided all of the information. And so in speaking to them verbally, they did not anticipate any concerns, but they were heavily involved in the previous minor variance application on this property and just did want to do a confirmed check. So we anticipate comments being received from them next week.
Thank you, Ms. Furness. Anything else, Ms. Porter? Anyone else? At this time, I will call it the applicant. I believe Ms. Joanne McLaughlin is in the room. Are we able to bring her forward? Thank you. Ms. McLaughlin, welcome to the Committee of Adjustment.
Good evening.
You can hear us okay?
I can, thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, so as far as looking at this recommendation to defer, I note that certainly thank you for pointing out how it would be that I have that recommendation put in place because of timeline issues. The CRCA in July recommended the geotechnical study report, to which I had completed and submitted, just to learn the 11th of August how it was that an expert more than that, there had to be another entity involved. Mr. Schmidt referred to another person, which incurred another fee to review this report. And he assured me at the time that he had intention and would provide his comments to loyalists who were kept in the loop. In fact, I had Peter Voss correspond with me throughout May, June, and July in recognizing all of the necessary reports, surveys, design elements that were required. But yes, it did linger to Friday afternoon. There was communication, though, that certainly reassured that there wasn't any concerns on their end. And that is now provided in that report that unfortunately, I guess, is not been submitted in time. But as far as speaking to the deferral, in addition to that, as far as what Ms. Furness referred to with regards to previous requirements and conditions of the MTO, when I was successful last August of 2019 for the detached garage minor variance, there was a condition of removal of part of my driveway. That was completed spring of this year, and the MTO provided me with a certificate acknowledging that. As far as looking at conversations in regards to repair of the existing retaining walls with slight portions added, because basically aesthetically, in order to do a structured wall in the design, you'll see that there needs to be a certain amount of wraparound, to which is what's referred to on the west side of the garage, which is just an outline of the foundation, in addition to the one wall on the east side, not two walls. So there was conversation, but no paperwork trail regarding the MTO and their involvement or need to be involved. These current structural deficits of the yard, I have railroad tie walls that are certainly challenged by holding back and or being functional, that I'm trying to realize an approach to the erosion issue as is outlined, and you can reference Andrew Smith's report dated the 4th of September, where he recommends that I get this done ASAP rather than let time linger, because of course I'm fighting a ridge and I'm trying to maintain earth. And that is exactly what the only letter that I have to acknowledge my neighbor to the east, Mr. Wycliffe, he referenced how it was that he was worried that I wouldn't successfully provide erosion challenges to that wall, because he didn't see how it would be that I was doing this timely enough. And he moved on in his letter to refer to the shoreline issues, which has nothing to do with what the minor variance proposes. So I spoke to just now, and thank you for your time, the CRCA's reference. I spoke to the MTO's reference. I spoke to the acknowledged letter of my neighbor that references basically urgency, in which I'm trying to get done. And if I get further delays into October, latter October, by the time this circulates for another 20 days, I've been trying to get this done since May, whenever I was redirected by the planning committee at Loyalist Township, because the permits that I sought were unable to be realized because of these requirements. And then certainly I proposed to get all of this assembled, to which I believe I had. And here we are talking about another deferral at the 11th hour. Just understanding that is what I hope to just emphasize with regards to Chirpin Inn right now.
Thank you very much, Ms. McLaughlin. And does any member of the committee have a question for the applicant? Seeing none. And staff, do you have any comments with regards to it?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I understand. We'd prefer not to do a deferral as well. However, and it's not just one item being the CRCA or the MTO. There were a few things that came into play that needed to be considered, and they needed to be available at the time of the staff report. I'm speaking with the Ministry of Transportation verbally. I don't anticipate concerns, and we do have favorable comments from the Conservation Authority. So I very much expect that a recommendation report will be completely ready to bring forward at the October 5th Committee of Adjustment meeting.
Thank you. And we now go to the public forum. Is there anyone in the audience, in the attendees, who wish to speak to this particular application? I would ask that you use the tools to put your hand up. I see two, right? And the clerk will bring in the first one. Mr. Wycliffe. If you can hear me, welcome, Mr. Wycliffe. I think you're muted quite yet, but once you come in fully, if you can tell us your full name and civic address for the record, and then make your comments, please.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Thank you.
I am Paul Wycliffe. I live at 4476 Bath Road, just to the east of 4480 Bath Road.
Thank you.
Okay, so you see, I've submitted my written concerns, and I won't read them again. I'll just reiterate a few main points, if I may, with a little bit of addition. The first concern, the dry land retaining wall on the east side. I have a surveyor's report on my lot dated September 20th, 1999. That site plan, and you probably got it way back when I did a bunch of stuff in 2011. The site plan shows two retaining walls that span the property line. There's still the remains of them there depicted in her image as timber retaining walls. This shows that the retaining walls have spanned the property line for a long time and suggests that previous owners have considered the retaining walls to be a shared asset. I'm not concerned with the reduction of the east yard setback to 0 meters. In fact, I would like the two retaining wall sections to meet at the property line such that there is no gap in the wall section, because a retaining wall with a hole in it doesn't do much retaining. I'm just confused by the image, the representation on the diagram there, and I'm still confused by it. But that's all I need to say about the dry land retaining wall.
Okay.
On to the second thing. This is the shoreline erosion. As I read in the thing, I see seven aspects of the minor variance related to floodplain setback. I guess floodplain setback has something to do with flooding and erosion. Maybe I'm naive there. Now, I recognize that the Cataraqui Region Conservation Authority is involved with expertise in shoreline erosion. Now, page 6, I'm referring now to the staff report. Now, page 6 of the staff report states the Cataraqui Region Conservation Authority requested a slope stability study to be submitted with the application. The study was completed and provided to the CRCA. Now, page 30 through 35 of the staff report contain the letter report of the Cambium Slope Stability Study. Page 33 of that staff report contains the statement, additionally, Cambium recommends that the concrete dock should be repaired to prevent additional erosion of the slope toe. They also go on a bit later to say, based on the field observation for the visual inspection, the additional loads of the proposed deck supports are not expected to have an effect on the slope or existing retaining wall structure if installed as recommended above. I've also spoken to the guy too, and I invite you to go through the pictures I provided. You might do that as I talk. So let me summarize 3 points. You've seen the pictures. This poor state of the seawall at 4480 Bath Road has caused a loss of fill at my property at 4476 Bath Road, and I have a concern about that. The poor state of the seawall at 4480 Bath Road is threatening to cause a loss of fill at the other adjoining property, 4484 Bath Road. And I've spoken with the owner of that property, and he also has a concern in this regard. The third point, the Cambium Slope Stability Study that was requested by the CRCA states, Cambium recommends that the concrete dock should be repaired to prevent additional erosion of the slope toe. So with these three points in mind, just one sec. I would like to communicate. I would like the CRCA to see the pictures. I'd like them to respond to the Cambium study recommendation. And that's pretty well it.
Thank you very much for your presentation today, Mr. Wycliffe. And, moving to the next person, I believe Ms. Whitnell, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And we're working on getting Ms. Whitnell in. Here we are. Ms. Whitnell, if you could give us your full name and address, and please go ahead and make your comments.
Okay, my name is Carly Whitnell, and I am at 4477 Bath Road. I am directly across the street from the 4480. I'm a new owner to this property. I purchased the property in February, and so this is new to my. This is new information to me. Since I've been here, Joanne I've noticed that the removal of the second access point to Bath Road. I am subject to a shared easement between my neighbor to the west, and which is a fourplex, a multiplex. So 4 units with 7 cars frequently entering and exiting that property. It was brought to my attention when I purchased the property that it is a shared easement. There should be no blockage, and that parking in the front yard is not an option at this point. So parking can only be permitted at the back. I have frequent issues trying to get in and out of my driveway due to increased traffic and people blocking the easement consistently. I've addressed the neighbor, and because they're tenants and because they're delivery people, there's really not much that I can do. And since the second access point has been removed from across the street, that access that small chunk of space has increased dramatically. Just over the weekend, I had to circle the block twice before I could actually enter my own driveway. In addition, the house to the west of 4480, they have, I'm going to guess, 50 feet worth of entrance and exit space on Highway 33, which is also extremely congested. One of the cars continuously reverses into the space of 4480 in order to back up and get onto the highway. Numerous times I've actually had to back out of the driveway onto Highway 33 just to be able to allow somebody to exit the driveway, the shared driveway, to be able to get back into my property. There are 2 bicycle lanes, one on each side of the road, as well as a sidewalk between my driveway and Highway 33, which is an additional safety hazard. And currently we're in a sort of a lockdown time. I'm an employee at the university, so normally I would be going to and from work on a regular basis. And my concern is about how we're going to manage this access point in and out of these shared spaces. And that is what my concern is.
Thank you, Ms. Whitnell. Again, I see staff taking notes with regard to the entrances around your property. This particular application is specific to the one at 4480, so we'll keep our comments to that one for this application purposes. But as I say, I see the staff are taking notes, and you may wish to follow up with staff at a later date with regard to your issues at your entrance. So we appreciate your comments.
My big concern is that it becomes a visual obstruction. So it is difficult as it is just to be able to see what's coming and what's going. And how much space, I guess my question would be, how much space will there be for a turnaround option if that structure is to be as large as it appears it's going to be?
Okay. This is not a forum for ask and answer type situations, but I will ask staff to address your comments at the appropriate time.
Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Whitnall?
No, that is my biggest concern. It's making
Okay.
sure
And-
safety.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address this application? Seeing none, then I will come back to staff for comments on the public presentations.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think we've captured all the comments that have been raised, and we can definitely address them in the future staff report that'll come forward with a recommendation speaking to these concerns. And any follow-up conversations that have to have with the Conservation Authority can happen in regards to that as well, to ensure that we have all the answers.
Thank you very much. And back to the applicant for a comment with regard to the comments presented.
Yes, I was concerned as well in regards to Carly's concern about removal of my circular drive. Same challenges getting in and out of Bath Road, but unfortunately it was a imposed requirement of the MTO that I remove an entry. I complied to that, as I spoke to a while ago. I was successful in my detached garage. I don't know if she has that information, but that building permit is underway as far as looking at moving forward with that. I just wanted to reiterate and to speak to Mr. Wycliffe's points. I want to reiterate that the Cambion report does not emphasize how it is that the shoreline work needs to be done prior to the renovation of the existing retaining walls and or the new portions that are proposed to be installed. It does not speak to having it done as a prerequisite to the addition to my deck, approximately 100 square feet that I'm looking at, that I had a designer and or a geotechnical report and a third surveyor come to the property. It does speak to how it is that in the setback, the addition to the deck does not compromise any of the shoreline or propose to make any kind of hazard to the shoreline. Speaking to the shoreline, and Mr. Wycliffe was made aware of how it is that I do have Kehoe Marine in a contractual agreement with me. Unfortunately, with COVID and other demands, they've not come to realize this year in repairing that. But I've been in a contract since 2019 with Kehoe Marine, and I'm awaiting them to fix the shoreline. So certainly I'm trying to look at solutions. In regards to the CRCA, they acknowledge and or maintain the focus of the minor variance to be 2 points. The summary of the minor variance being to reduce the required floodplain setback from 15 meters as required by section 4.11 brackets B of the Loyalist Township zoning bylaw to 1.4 meters in order to permit the construction of a deck. I spoke to Mr. Wycliffe about how it is the structured walls as per the design require that the footings of the structure wall go at the property line, which he jokingly referred to as, you know, a retaining wall that doesn't retain all the soil won't be functional. It does do that and recesses inwardly so that I can respectfully understand function and or aesthetics to make it so that Mr. Wycliffe, who is butting up to the property line, is certainly looking at being, you know, acknowledged for what it is that he's hopeful is an outcome. The neighbors to my west, their rentals, as Miss Whitnall referred to, I've never met them. They live apparently in BC. They have a shore wall that goes right up to my property line. I'm going to fix the shoreline right up to that property line. That is not part and parcel of the minor variance. The second point, in just referencing the summary of the proposed minor variance itself, is just in reference to looking at the bullets by CRCA on the front page of the report, is replacing the retaining walls, construct a new portion of retaining wall, and improvements to stairs within the 15-meter floodplain setback is something they recommend, and they propose that this gets done ASAP. So that's all I'm trying to do, and I just want to not create any challenges that do not have to be there. So I appreciate the time, and hopefully that clears things up for everyone.
Thank you, Ms. McLaughlin. At this point, I will close the public side of the Committee of Adjustment meeting and turn to the committee members and ask if you have any questions with regard to this application. Seeing none, and I look for a motion. Ms. Porter.
I'll move to receive the report and defer the application to the October 5th meeting.
So moved. Do I have a seconder for that? Ms. Parks? Ms. Porter, do you have comment?
No.
Ms. Parks? Anyone else? Seeing none, and I'll call the question on the motion at hand. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, thank you. That ends the two applications. Our next meeting date, as has been stated a few times, will be October the 5th. And we shall likely hear this one again. And with that, I look for a motion for adjournment of the Committee of Adjustment. Mr. Buderick, seconded by Mr. Gordon. And all those in favor? Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much. With that, it is now 6:49. We were scheduled to start our committee of the whole at 6:30, but let's give ourselves 10 minutes and we will meet back here in Zoom land at 7 o'clock. And thank you very much. We'll see you all in a few minutes.